Hello, New Bedford. Mike Sylvie here, New Bedford Guide. We're going to do some things starting today and into next week, which is to interview some of the candidates that are running for office for the October 1st election. Starting today with Lisa White, we're going to talk about her running for at-large. And after this, we're going to talk to a few others today and next week. So we're going to start off. So welcome.
Hi.
So you're running for at-large.
I am.
So tell me why.
Because the city could be even better than it is, and I love living here, and I think that I could be part of a positive change.
So you've been here for how long now in New Bedford?
6 years.
Yeah, so 6 years. You have a family?
I do. I have a husband who is in the Air Force at Otis, and then I have a 4-year-old daughter who's at Hayden McFadden in pre-kindergarten.
Okay, I went to Hay McFadden. It was good. It's always been kind of a tough school, but good school, good teachers there. People really trying hard there. And when I went there in I guess the late 70s, early 80s. So it's good school. I like the school. How about a job? What's your job right now?
I'm a landlord here in New Bedford. So, and I'm a mom and an awesome wife, and those are my jobs.
Okay. So let's get into the politics of it. So questions I'm going to kind of ask all the councilors is, what do you think is the role of the city council?
I believe that the role of a city councilor is to represent the people, not the individual. So we see signs all over the city say people's names, and I don't believe in that, because I believe that it's just a representative. You should be a window, and that the people should be able to shine through the individual. But the technical aspects of the job, I believe, are to approve the people that are appointed by the mayor, to approve the budget, which is a huge task, and then to propose and vote on legislation and changing ordinances and proposing new ones.
If you get elected, what would your number one priority be?
My number one priority is going to be homeownership and increasing the homeownership rate in the city.
So go further into that. What is that? What do you mean? How?
Well, I think that it's, first and foremost, it's really important to get out all of the resources that are available to first-time homebuyers, such as the down payment assistance programs, and there's many other programs offered through Mass Housing and other agencies. People with credit scores as low as 500 can even get in to a mortgage right now, which is really great. And then at 580 and 600 credit scores, you can start to see even better incentive programs like 0% down or 3.5% down through the FHA program. And I think that the public needs to know that and needs to know their options. And
So how would you go about so, city council passes motions and tries to use influence to do things. So how would you implement something like that, though? Actually get education, outreach?
well, we don't have a committee on homeownership. And I don't know if that's something that the city council can suggest as a new committee, maybe?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I mean, it's that important, at least in my eyes. A 1% raise in homeownership can actually lower area crime by 1%, or even more so in some studies. You'd have a public that's self-policing. Owner-occupied properties are typically worth more, a lot more, actually, which is going to raise our tax base, and it makes all the other properties around it worth more. So, and that goes on to, of course, fund our schools and our first responders, everything else. So homeownership's really the best thing for everybody.
So if you have a question for Lisa, throw it out. I'll ask her the questions that you put out there. So one of the big things in the South Coast, New Bedford, Fall River, is public safety. So what kind of actions do you take to make New Bedford a safer place to live?
Well, homeownership. For every 1% in homeownership rate, the crime rates usually drop.
Where do you get those statistics? Where are you saying that from?
Oh, I got it online. I can send it to you. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay.
The other thing is supporting our police officers. I mean, they're the people who are protecting us. They should feel like they want to protect us. So I feel that there are lots of other contracts that could have been negotiated before theirs. Just a thought.
Would you have right now they're in negotiations for a contract. Do you have any thoughts on are the police being treated unfairly? Is the city being treated unfairly? Where you stand on that?
I think that we should pay the police officers more.
Do you think they don't make enough right now?
They have to wear a bulletproof vest to work.
So I'll play devil advocate. So the highest paid people in the city are police and fire, which I believe they should be. Do you know anything of the negotiations, though, how much they're asking?
I don't actually know how much they're asking.
Yeah, I think the information's not really publicly out there as far as hard concrete, but I think they're talking double-digit raises, and we would have to get more of the police and the city together to talk this out. But I think they are asking for a lot. I'm not sure exactly what they're asking for either, but I think it's a lot. But you wouldn't just blindly support any pay raise, right?
No, not any pay raise. But I'll tell you, there's lots of places that, in my opinion, could stand to be cut from before that. Did you know that we pay our parking attendants over $400,000 a year?
How many of those?
9.
9.
But $400,000 is $400,000 for doing a job that a police officer could absolutely do.
Yeah, some would say they generate revenue, though, for the city, right? So I think it's about $1 million a year, somewhere around there.
But in the only amount that actually enters the general fund, I was under the assumption of is, at least in the budget, it said that it was $75,000 from the meters.
Yeah, I think after all that's the meters. I think the tickets are where you
tickets.
get those are. I used to get a lot of tickets living downtown, and if you talk to people who live downtown,
I get one almost every day.
yeah, and you got a new parking garage, but one of the biggest gripes I had is that Custom House Square was converted from a long-term parking lot into a park, which is beautiful park downtown, and you do have this Itinerant in the Elm Street parking garage. But I think if you live and work downtown, your complaint is the lack of immediate parking. Even though the Elm Street and Itinerant are not far from where you're trying to go, but if you are working and live in downtown, it's kind of a pain. I used to live above Freestones. I used to have to park at the Elm Street parking garage. Not too bad, but a lot of the first few levels are reserved, so you got to park like on the 4th or 5th floor. But yeah, so I'm guessing for public safety though. Let's go into what kind of, besides home ownership and maybe putting more support behind the police, what else do you have for public safety?
Well, I think that the jurisdiction of a city councilor is rather limited, but I would love to see harsher sentences for some of the criminals that get arrested here.
You think the rotation of criminals out through the court system is a little too fast? Or?
Way too fast. It's a revolving door.
So you agree with so when I talked to Mitchell about this, his problem was that the judges don't live in the city. They come from outside the city. They come in and they head back to Duxbury and nice communities, like rich communities, and they don't have to live with the consequences of releasing I don't think obviously the low crime, the petty crime, or even the first time offenders is the problem. It's the 10% of the criminals, the recidivism rate is really high. I mean, we publish articles of 89 arraignments with 40 convictions and back on the street. I think
these dealers are just, they're laughing at us. So.
Yes, I guess I also put an article about, fentanyl is the biggest problem. It's 93% of the deaths for overdose deaths in Massachusetts.
Wow, I thought it was 89%, but
it went up. Yeah, it was 89. It was 89 last year. The first quarter of this year, it's now to 93, and that's up from 73. So, but that possession of any form of car fentanyl it's
a felony, right?
It's a felony, right? But possessing under 10 grams of fentanyl is actually possession. And you don't get traffic and distribution charges.
But 10 grams of fentanyl is enough to kill how many people?
A lot of people. Just 4 or 5 grams can kill you. Overdose you. So that's one of the pushes I've always considered. I don't know what the city council can do. So we'll move on to another topic, economy, right? So, New Bedford's per capita income, whether it's single person or family, is like half the state average.
Right.
What could a city council do to maybe attract higher paying jobs to the city?
Well, I mean, it's going to start, number one, with attracting businesses. You're not going to bring new jobs here without bringing new business. I think that when business owners reach out to the city to either open or grow their business, they need to be met with a positive attitude rather than a no. And that seems to be the go-to answer for the city, is just no, 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 no. It's so difficult to get permitting. It's so difficult to get approvals. And I think that we should be focused more on working together and positive construction-based results.
So Justin asked a question, do you believe the cops should walk the beat again? So that's something I've talked to Chief Cadero about, and let's hear what you have to say first before I chime in.
I think that it does well in small town communities. It really does. I think that cops should walk the beat if they choose to. We live in, this isn't Leave It to Beaver here. You know, there's some serious stuff happening on our streets, and I do understand maybe not wanting to be, out there in the open, or I can see the positives in walking the beat and the community connection between the police officers and the residents, but it's not my place to make that decision.
Yeah, I think you could give recommendations to the chief, but obviously the city council can only do so much.
Right.
Need more the mayor's office, I think, but it is something I think America has kind of lost, is that community. Because if you're a beat officer and you walk in, you see the same people, you talk to them, they see you're your friend, they might give you information. Hey, that guy on this street is selling fentanyl. They wouldn't give you that information because the trust with the police can be an issue sometimes, I think.
But would that make it more difficult for the police to arrest them, should there ever be a problem then?
Yeah, maybe. All right, so we'll go on to the next thing. So obviously, addiction's a big thing, right? Is there anything city council or you could do to, support programs, or what would your plan be to reduce addiction in New Bedford?
Well, I think that we need more education, outreach. Honestly, I think that people need to be held accountable to their actions, to their decisions, and not necessarily the taxpayers. It's a really tough situation because it affects so many people, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So.
Well, here's a question I ask a lot of politicians: is addiction a disease or a choice?
Addiction always starts off as a choice. Biochemically, at some point, receptors do change, but they do change back with time. So I think that it was classified as a disease for insurance and financial purposes, but I think that it's always going to be the individual's choice as well. So.
Marijuana. Do you think New Bedford's, for retail marijuana, has acted in a positive way? Because we seem to be like the last city to actually get one. I don't think we're going to have one built this year. We're getting some of the first approvals with the host city agreements coming out. We had 3. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to have anything built. If those 3 even make it through the Cannabis Control Commission, through state stuff, and get funding, that kind of stuff. Do you think we're slow, or is it looking at Fall River, is it a smart thing to potentially do it slow?
I had initially kind of jumped on the whole, we're not lighting the way fast enough thing against Mitchell. And now with the fiasco in Fall River, it kind of seems like we did the right thing. Sometimes slow and steady does win the race. I'm not entirely sure that the 3 hosting agreements are going to carry through to actual open dispensaries. It would be nice for the city. But what would be even nicer, and I think that we're actually doing this, is to start get more of a participation in the manufacturing of of the marijuana, because all of these dispensaries around us are going to be needing supply, right? So that's a way to not necessarily bring all the dispensaries and the element here, but to definitely employ people and use that industry to our advantage.
Big conversation on social media and I think around New Bedford is potholes. Is there something that city council could do to make sure potholes are, especially some of the long-term ones, are repaired and fixed up?
Yeah. Potholes are bad for vehicles.
Let's start with this. Do you think the city's doing enough right now?
I think the city's doing what it can. There are roads that haven't been. I've been here for 6 years. There's roads that I've never seen resurfaced or anything. There's roads that I've seen resurfaced 4 or 5 times. The majority of them are downtown, which I might be okay with that if I lived downtown, but I don't. It is nice to drive down here, though. Ward 2 is a little bit bumpy. So, yeah, I think that we need to take some of the love downtown and kind of spread it out a little bit. That would be nice.
Taxes. We'll talk property taxes. So obviously, as a property owner and landlord, you're paying a lot of taxes in the city. Are they at a good level? Can they be reduced?
Our residential taxes, everyone wants to complain about our residential or property taxes in general. Our residential property taxes are actually not that high. We're not even in the top 20 for the cost of residential taxes. They could be a lot higher, so I'm grateful that they're not higher than they are. Our commercial taxes, on the other hand, is what is really becoming a barrier to new companies moving in and investing in New Bedford and then bringing those jobs and that innovation with them and ultimately stifling us. So I think that our commercial tax rates, they did fall from last year. They were over $35 per thousand. This year I think that they're $34.84, something like that. It's astronomically high. It's like at least double what everyone else around us is paying for commercial taxes. So.
Yeah, I think residential, though, it's still the highest in the area. I think it's like around $3,200 a year for the average homeowner, something like that, which is, again, if the average person in New Bedford's earning $32,000 and 10% of the income is heading to the property tax, that seems pretty high to me.
Yeah, and it is high. It is high, especially when you look at our infrastructure compared to, I was just looking at Fairhaven's rates that are much lower than ours. I think that they are around 11, and we're at 16.47 here. But they have better roads. They have better lit roads. They have a lot of things that we don't. When you deal with an aging infrastructure, it makes it really difficult because the city had to and has to spend so much money to upgrade our utility services and our roads and our sidewalks. And there's a larger ongoing expense. And that's really unfortunate that we haven't gotten there yet. But once we get there, hopefully it'll be better for everyone.
Yeah, I think the rates are it's kind of relative, though, because it's like a seesaw, right? If your property values are high, your rates are lower.
Yeah.
If your property values are lower, your rates get high. And so it's kind of like an inverse seesaw effect on that. So you can say Dartmouth, Fairhaven might have...
They have higher property values.
They have higher property values, so they can have lower rates. And I think like the city councils will tell you in the last budget that they lowered the rates, but the values went up high enough to bring up average homeowner. I think is paying $220 higher. I think the business was like an extra $20. It wasn't as high, but it's not easy because the city council really doesn't have much. They can adjust the rate, but I don't know if you have a plan for that. You're going to be able to look at that because I think you have an expertise in home ownership and property ownership, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of might feel the burden more than any other counselor if you get on.
Absolutely. I have one property in particular that is half commercial and half residential, and the property tax alone on that one is about $1,500 a month, I believe. So it's painful.
And Marlena Johnson says, I appreciate your answer for is addiction a choice or disease? Well said. So you got some feedback there.
Thank you.
A big thing lately is, and it's I guess been going on for a little while, is the waivers for residencies. What's your view on that?
I think that anytime you have money leaving a city, it's going to hurt the economy, but it's going to help the economy elsewhere. So if you were to view that at the state level, it's probably not a big deal. At the municipal level, it's money leaving that should be spent here, that could be spent here. And so there's people that get those waivers that I personally feel are best for the job. But it's not about the person, it's about the city. And I think that municipally, it would be better for the economy if everybody stayed here and worked here, if there were no more waivers.
Yeah, because I think it's definitely something the city council would have control over is the residency waivers. Mm-hmm. And the mayor does send a bunch down. What would kind of be your litmus test of this is what they have to meet for me to give this waiver?
Probably a level of education, so, or safety. We were talking earlier, if you're talking about a police officer who possibly is going to be arresting someone or definitely put in harm's way, or judges at times, you don't want them to be singled out. So I can understand not living within the city limits. But then again, that probably has caused the judges being super lenient. So,
I think you have to take each as an individual, and I think if no one applies in the city for that job, and I think sometimes the city doesn't do the greatest job of getting the word out for the jobs, especially I would say some of the lower skill jobs might. If you don't see people applying, I kind of question that. But if the higher stuff like master's degree and some degree that's not offered at local, like UMass, Dartmouth, that kind of stuff, I could see a little bit more of that. But I guess it's individual as they come up, right?
yeah.
So we'll end with the last few questions. Big thing in the city, obviously, public housing. Would you be for more status quo or less public housing in the city?
Public housing, I'm for less. I believe in privatization, so while I do believe in affordable housing and even the expansion of affordable housing, I believe that the taxpayers shouldn't necessarily have to build that or even maintain it. Right now, HUD is saying that the deferred maintenance alone on publicly owned housing units is $49 billion nationwide. Like, that's ridiculous, and we're on the hook for that unless we get those units sold and privatized. Then we can sell the problems with them. That would be nice.
So why do you think someone hasn't done that already?
Oh, they have.
In New Bedford?
Oh, no, not in New Bedford.
Well, so tell me where. So where have you? So you've seen success outside of the city?
In Ketchikan, Alaska. I know it's a really small, faraway town, but it has worked there. There are several units that have sold in Las Vegas, Nevada. Some in Silverton, I believe, Oregon. I was just reading an article about it. Anyway, this is something that has caught on, and it's actually better for taxpayers too, more at the state level. But these units have a lot of deferred maintenance. I mean, if you look on New Bedford Housing Association's page, you can see on the request for proposals page, there's 6 or 7 pages of unfulfilled bids or proposals that haven't been bid on, and a lot of them are asbestos remediation. I mean, really expensive stuff. So as a taxpayer, I don't want to be on the hook for paying for that or for the liability for having asbestos in the units, or I don't know the individual cases. But yeah, if we can get out from underneath the huge liability on that, I think that would be great. And then to keep the safety net of having affordable housing through the low-income housing tax credit that the federal government offers private developers and landlords, it seems like a win-win to me.
Yeah, I think we talked before we started, because we both have military connections, that the military, I want to say like 8 years ago or so, started privatizing the military housing.
Yeah.
So it's something that definitely have to look into. So how can people find you online?
Well, I have I don't know it off the top of my head. On Facebook, you can find me on Facebook. Lisa White for City Council, I believe, is the page. And then I have a nonprofit as well. It's o2mg.org. And they could find me by searching Skunk Roast on Facebook, because that was my nickname as a child.
So if they want to find your issues, that your Facebook is primary place to go.
Yeah, I think the page is Lisa White for City Council on Facebook.
Yep. I know you've been pretty active in the New Bedford group, so you start some conversations in there, can kind of ask you questions if they see you in there.
Yeah.
Or just message you on Facebook.
Yeah,
Kind of
messaging me on Facebook is always a good way to get me.
Okay, so thanks for coming in. And the election is in October 1st, so get out and vote, whether you vote for Lisa or anyone out there. If people don't know, city council at large is, you're basically asking for one of the 5 votes that people get to ask for at large.
Or all of the 5.
Just pick you 5 times?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
It'd be
you.
cool if that could happen, right? All right, so thanks for coming in. Appreciate
you.
it.